Exactly. And that's my thing. Like, what, like, why? Like, it has to be manipulation. There's no way that we're looking up all this infrastructure, all these new products, all these new partnerships. Now, last year, this same thing was happening here with all the Mag 7s, and they were all thriving. So why is it all now that the only company that's really doing all of that, the partnerships, the expansion, the infrastructure, new products, why is the one company that's the only company doing it, why are they not thriving like everybody was doing the same thing last year? And that's the reason why I say that I believe that the rest of the Mac 7 are, and I don't doubt that they're not even working together. We got to stop Nvidia. This is a new player. They haven't even earned their bones. They've only been in the Mac 7 for a year now, and they're about to pass us and keep going. We've been at this value for a decade, and you're trying to tell me that this freshman, this newbie, is going to come in and just blow past us?
The series billions playing out right in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
I want
Huang
to see.
knows his. No,
I
go
want
go
to see
ahead.
which one of them going to buy Nikola. That's if Nvidia gets
I
a hold of
was
Nikola, it's going to be.
yeah, yeah. I thought sure that Tesla was going to jump on that, but that would make sense. That wouldn't it be better if Nvidia bought it? Because they went bankrupt. I'm pretty sure they're going to have an auction and they're going to sell all of their assets to pay back the creditors on that bankruptcy. But Nikola filed Chapter 11 about 2 weeks ago, and as soon as I saw the article, I'm like, who's going to buy? Who's going to liquidate? And my first thought was Tesla. And only because to stop everybody else from getting all of that out of all of those assets to be able to compete. But if Tesla doesn't buy up all that infrastructure, I don't think the rest of the car market has enough to do it. They're already failing in the driverless car market anyway. So the only company that makes sense to buy it would either be Amazon or Nvidia. And the only reason why I say Amazon is because they have the largest portfolio of infrastructure that's just sitting around. And we do know that Amazon is also working on, driverless vans, as they drop off the stuff. So I can see Amazon buying it, but I can also see Nvidia with the game plan of trying to compete with every single one of the Mac 7 in their own market. But good eye, because I saw the same thing.
Or some type of weird partnership between the two.
Partnership with who?
Amazon.
With Nvidia?
With Nvidia to get Nikola. You don't
Nah,
think?
nope. They're competing on so many levels. Nah, there's no way. One or the other is going to have to buy it. Now, I'll say this much: if something like that does happen, it's going to be similar to the Intel, where what are the two companies that are trying to buy Intel? One of them is in England.
Not Cisco. Was it Cisco?
Say again.
Broadcom.
Broad,
Broad, Broadcom.
Broadcom might be one, but there were two companies that was after the Intel, and there was one U.S. company and one foreign company. But either way, the reason why is they're breaking up the Intel. Like Intel doesn't have, I think Intel is also going bankrupt, so they're just breaking it up. So I think that might be. It's not going to be a join together. Let's buy it together. I think I'll take this portion. I'll take all the trucks, and you take all the warehouses. That kind of stuff. Like there'll be a breakup of the assets. It's still going to be competition, but the courts or however they negotiate it. But it won't be a joint venture where they're agreeing on what they're going to take. I think either the courts or mediators are going to come in and kind of break it up that way. And I would think that NVIDIA would want the warehouse because, the labs and the factories and, all of that. That's what NVIDIA wants. NVIDIA wants the infrastructure. You can keep the trucks. You can keep all that. Now, that does make sense because Amazon would more so want the trucks and that kind of thing because they are shipping. So like I said, they'll break it up, whatever, but it won't be amicable. It won't be a joint venture. But they may both go after it, just like the Intel.
I had saw an article where the semiconductor manufacturer TSMCI, I forget the letters. They were rumored to maybe have a large investment in acquiring Intel as well as to try to get ahead of any, I guess, like China. It's more like a geopolitical thing. The thinking is if they did that, and got a lot of their infrastructure out of Taiwan and into the U.S., that might be a buffer between, China, and their plans is trying to, take back Taiwan.
Yeah. Now that is the other company, the Taiwan Semiconductor. That was the other company. I looked it up. Broadcom and TSMC are both trying to, split the whole Intel infrastructure. But you make a good point, Damien, because I just saw an article this morning about it's another tech company out of China called Tencent. Tencent. Anybody ever heard of Tencent? Tencent or Tencent? Yes, Tencent.
Yeah, but I didn't know I forgot what they do, but I remember the name.
They're a tech company, but they're also just introducing themselves into the AI market. And they're a huge. Let me look up Tencent so everybody knows who they are. Products. Gaming, cloud technology, films. So they're talking about getting into the AI game. Let me put it in Tencent AI because that was something that came out like literally this morning, 7 hours ago. Tencent fires up AI race with model, and then they say that the model that they have is better than DeepSeek, faster than DeepSeek. Every week we get a new player in the AI war, right? All right. Any other current events? Did you guys run across anything of importance? Because I think that might be it. I'm going to go ahead and go into the challenge. We're going to do both challenges. I'm going to do yesterday's challenge and today's. I already got it posted. Anybody that wanted to look at it. I gave you the videos. I gave you the assignments, all of that. But I still want to do it in, live if I can. I don't like missing, doing it, live in the Zoom. So we're going to do yesterday's and today's since we missed it yesterday. Let me go and pull that up. Let me check let me check the social medias because I'm basically just going to broadcast these challenges and then I'm going to get off. I'm going to get off YouTube and TikTok after I do the challenge. So we're going to do yesterday and today. I hope you guys are learning a lot, man. I'm loving the challenge. I'm loving the way everything is set up. I really hope you guys are learning a lot. All right, so let's get into this. So we didn't get a chance to do yesterday's challenge on the Zoom. So we're going to go ahead and do this one first. This is picking up on day 24, which was Wednesday. where we introduced the prime correlation. This is the most powerful analysis that exists. All right, you cannot find this anywhere else. This is an exclusive analysis and metric that we teach our students here in the Cheetah trading community. The prime correlation is the relationship between the dollar and the oil. On Wednesday, we showed you the oil part of that prime correlation. Because we were trading yesterday, we did not get a chance to do the other side of that coin by showing you the dollar version or aspect of the prime correlation. So we're going to do that today, right? Continuing with our trading education on day 25, which was yesterday. We're quoting Bill Ackman. He's keeping us on focus on what we need to do. It is essential that we have trading education. Bill Ackman lets us know the best investors are those who are always learning. From that, we go into our daily assignment. Did we do the oil? Come on. Did we do the dollar, guys? Because I'm showing labor.
No, I haven't seen $1,000 oil for a minute.
Let me look it up again. See, this is day 24. Today we're supposed to do the 20. And I did add it wrong. The 30 days ends on Tuesday. So today we're supposed to be doing 26, 25, 24. So yeah, we're supposed to be doing 25. I don't remember doing the dollar. Do you guys remember doing the dollar? Oh yeah, we did Janet Yellen. Yeah, we did. I'm sorry. We're not doing the dollar. We're doing the labor. I apologize. So yeah, today we're doing the labor. Just want to make sure we're not jumping ahead. Give me a second. All right, beautiful. So here's what we want to learn about the labor market. Every corporation, every industry, every supply chain, and every government infrastructure is powered by labor. And I believe they even say that the government, it may even be the number one employer in the U.S. That's how many workers that it has. And we also know that the government is a corporation. And they employ the majority of the largest segment of labor in the US. And that's probably the same all over the world. All right. So you can look at corporations, look at industries, look at supply chains, and look at government infrastructure. It is all powered by labor. And without those workers, everything ceased to function. We saw that during the pandemic. Markets just froze when everybody was sent home. All right. Analyzing labor markets gives predictive powers to determine economic health and production outputs. Because we all know, and we're going to get into this as we move forward, the current assignment is going to get into that supply and demand, because the two forms of analysis that you should always come out, any analysis you do in the stock market should either come out to two different things: value or supply and demand. And that's what the production output is. If we follow that labor, we're going to get a really good read on how much supply and demand is going to result, how much production output, right? So that's our daily assignment, to learn about the labor market. So step one, we learn the importance of it. All right. And we quote Janet Yellen, current U.S. Treasury Secretary. Before that, she was the Fed chair from 2014 to 2018. So she shows us the importance of the labor market. She says a strong labor market is essential for achieving our inflation target and ensuring that the benefit of economic growth are widely distributed. You want economic growth, you have to look at the labor. You have to increase the labor. You have to incentivize the labor. Because if you don't incentivize the labor, they're going to leave and they're going to go to another company. You have to really focus on retention, on inclusion and retention on the labor market. And that's what's going to cause that economic growth to be widely distributed, as Janet Yellen says. So that's the importance of the labor market. It is essential to our economy and our economic growth. And then we also know that when the economy grows, the stock market grows. Number two, step two, learn how labor affects the economy. Let's learn the specifics. Let's find the causal sequence. What are the elements? What are the components that's going to affect the economy? Labor is the key factor in the economy affecting production, growth, and prices. As labor productivity increases, more goods and services are produced for the same amount of work, which can lower prices and increase consumption. All right. Step three, learn how labor affects your analysis. And this is where we're bringing it home. Application. Labor is first analyzed in the credit line. I've explained this so many times. Every supply chain has a credit line where they have a loan based on their assets, the value of their assets, right? And with that credit line, they're going to buy their, first off, the credit line has an interest rate that goes back to the dollar. Now with that credit line, one of the very first things you're going to buy is infrastructure, get all your land and your buildings and your factories and your labs. And then the next thing after your infrastructure, you're going to buy raw materials. And then after the raw materials, you're buying the oil to transport within the supply chain. And that's where the oil comes in. But after all of that, you need workers. We already talked about the essential component. You need the workers. If there's no workers, nothing gets built. You're dead in the water. So you can look at that credit line and see how much they're spending on the oil and the labor and on the original raw materials. And that right there will give you a really good read on future cause and effect, causal sequence, domino effect, snowball effect. What's the other one? Chain reaction. These are all words for the same thing. That in the end, it'll let you know what the supply and demand is. Just looking at the labor inside the credit line. And the way that you'll be able to read that is looking at the economic events, letting us know how labor is doing. Is it a strong labor market? Does everybody need a job? Does everybody have a job? Is everybody looking for a job? That's where all those metrics come in. And I have videos for my students in the masterclass that would explain that in detail. So once again, a company will determine how much labor it will need based on how much of the credit line it will use. Analyzing this preliminary metric gives early confirmation on economic reports and company revenue. We know days, weeks, months, and years in advance how healthy and how productive and how valuable a company will be. Step four, we always want to bring in the causal sequence. So causal sequences help us predict outcomes and making better informed decisions. So using causal sequence in the labor market can provide actionable insights into workforce dynamics for industries, sectors, corporations, supply chains, anything and everything that has workers. You can trace it back to two things, which we're going to keep saying this over and over again until you lock it in. It's going to come and result in two final conclusions: value, asset value, tangible value, intrinsic value, market value. And then the second thing is supply and demand. And really it's supply and demand and then value. Because based on how much supply and demand you have, that's also going to factor into the causal sequence of the value. What is the final value of the corporation? So let's show you the secret of the labor market. The labor market refers to the supply and demand for labor. If demand for the company's output increases, the company will demand more labor and it will hire more workers. If demand for the company's output falls, the firm will demand less labor and it will decrease its workforce. And if you keep going over this and you keep looking up the economic events, you keep researching the credit line and the supply chain and looking at the news and all of this, I promise you, organically, you're going to be able to understand the labor market and how it affects and connects and influences and impacts the entire corporate world and all the way out to the global economy. All right. If there aren't enough workers for production, it's going to affect supply and demand either way. Either too many workers will saturate the supply and demand, too few workers is going to increase the demand. It's that simple, guys. Hopefully you guys will, as you start to learn labor, look at the metrics, understand the different reports. Once again, I got a video for my students that will separate and break down those different labor and unemployment reports and different rates. All right. If you guys, if any of my students have any questions on that, when you see the video, I posted it yesterday, but if you have any questions on any of those videos, just let me know. I can either answer the questions or I can go find supplementary videos that will explain it maybe in more detail. All right. Any questions on the labor market? All right. So let's go into today's presentation. Give me a second. Let me put my earphones on. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Oh, hold on. Hold on now. There we go. Here we are, guys. I can smell day 30. We're so close. But here we are at day 26. You guys have been faithful. You've been focused. You've been determined. You've been motivated to go through this entire 30-day challenge. And I want to commend you because we're almost done. Hopefully, you'll see the benefit of continuing into the 90-day masterclass. But here we are. Notice that we're done with our education. We've taught you about financial literacy. We taught you about basic economics. We taught you about the prime correlation between the dollar and oil. And then we introduced the labor market. This is the beginning of the education. Believe me, when we get into the next 30 days, the 30-day simulation, we're going to introduce more education. But this is just to get you started. These are the basics you're going to need as you move forward. So now let's take the education that we just learned over the last few days. And now we're going to show you how to analyze with it. Right? Day 26, trading analysis. Let's confirm this like we always have every single day in this 30-day challenge. We have quoted the billionaires, making sure that we're on task and we're focused in the right direction. Bill Ackman, billionaire hedge fund CEO. Here's what he tells us. He says, information is never enough. You need analysis and a framework to understand it. Because here's the thing, guys. 99% of the people in the stock market have information. They may not have the right information. They may not have the complete information. They may be getting the information from somebody else. So information is never enough. You have to have the analysis, not following someone else's. You have to analyze. And then Bill Ackman is saying that to correctly and effectively analyze, you need a framework to understand the analysis and the information. So what is our framework? Well, we just went over it. The framework is the prime correlation. The base analysis that we need, the first two dominoes in any causal sequence in any analysis that we do. That's the beginning. Then we also introduce, labor has this secondary, if dollar and oil is Superman and Batman, then labor would be Wonder Woman, right? That's your trifecta. Hopefully you understand comics and you understand what I'm trying to say. But if oil and dollar are Superman and Batman, then labor would be Wonder Woman. They're so connected, right, to start off your analysis. But from here, that's not the end of our framework. Because what have we been saying and echoing for the past few days? That when we do analyze, what is the end result? The end result, number one, first off, causal sequence is going to allow us to go through that analysis to come to that inevitable conclusion that we can guarantee our trade and guarantee our analysis. But when we do go through that causal sequence, when we do get to the end of it, there are two destinations. We want to be able to analyze for value, and we want to be able to analyze for supply and demand. That is our framework. Let me go over it very, very quickly again. We start off with the prime correlation. We then introduce the labor as just a little accent to give us a little bit of clarity. We take those three dominoes, and then we go through our causal sequence. And then at the end of that causal sequence, we arrive at supply and demand and then value. That's our framework. And it's so simple. It's common sense. You can do it in your brain. Right? So with this analysis, with this understanding, with this framework, let's show you how to do it. Our daily assignment is to analyze for supply and demand. And we're going to take the quote from Sam Zell, billionaire real estate investor, father of the REIT. Now, he wasn't the inventor of the REIT, but he's called the father. Why? Because he was able to take the REIT at its infancy, and he was able to do things with it that nobody even realized. He thought outside the box, and he was able to come up with investment strategies using the real estate investment trust. So here is the quote of Sam Zell, because this man was invested in everything in the economy, everything in the stock market. And here's what he says. He says, I will tell you whatever business I've been in. It's all about supply and demand. That's always going to be the end result. That was the end result for Sam Zell. When it's all said and done, it's all about the supply and demand. So let's show you how to do that. Step one. First, you want to learn the law of supply and demand. Technically, it's not a law, but that's what they call it. It's basically a concept. But, laws are locked in, right? Laws usually work within some confines of some kind of, rules. Well, supply and demand has those kind of rules, which is why they call it a law. So here is the law of supply and demand, as simplified as possible, right? It states that when quantity demanded equals quantity supplied, it achieves an equilibrium price. One side, people are demanding the product. On the other side, the producer is creating the product. And somewhere in the middle is an equilibrium price that the producer is satisfied with what they're charging, and the consumer is satisfied with what they're spending. So here's how that pendulum moves back and forth, how that equilibrium will teeter back and forth. When supply is greater than demand, prices will fall. And when demand is greater than supply, prices will rise. Simple, simple, simple. Every commodity and every product in the entire global economy has supply and demand. Even the two things that people don't consider to be supply and demand, which is labor. Let's go over our three primary metrics. We know oil has supply and demand, but a lot of people don't consider that the dollar has a money supply. Money has a supply and demand. And I told you a couple of days ago that 2/3 of the money supply is global, outside of the US. And then even labor has a supply and demand. How many people are working? How many people need work? How many people are looking? How many people are unsatisfied? All of this is going to factor into the supply and demand of labor, the three main metrics in our formation. So now that we know the law of supply and demand, step two is to learn how to find the supply and demand. So we find supply and demand by analyzing the quantity the producer are willing to sell, that's the supply, and the quantity consumers are willing to buy it for, which is the demand. And once again, the tier. A higher demand causes scarcity, where the consumer will pay a higher price because there's not much left over. But on the other side, the higher supply will saturate the market, where prices are lowered to be able to compete or even get rid of the surplus, get rid of the inventory. Let's go over it again. Supply is the producer selling something. The demand is the consumer buying something. And then the demand is going to change based on scarcity. And the supply is going to be based on a saturated market. And if you analyze all of these keywords that I have in this little frame, you'll be able to analyze and find supply and demand every single time in the causal sequence. So here's the secret of supply and demand. The concept of supply and demand is such a common sense effect, a common sense tactic, strategy, sequence, that it can be analyzed mentally within seconds. And you guys have seen me over the past 2 years. I have taken a student that knows nothing about the stock market, and I have taught them supply and demand within 5 minutes in their brain. No computer, no piece of paper, just walking them through it step by step. Now, there's only 2 reasons why you will not be able to do that mental analysis of supply and demand. And this is the secret. First, institutions will intervene in markets and impose a minimum price floor or a maximum price ceiling. And through that manipulation, they will affect surplus and shortages. The second thing that might disrupt the analysis is a substitution for a cheaper version. That's going to undermine the demand and disrupt the causal sequence of supply and demand. As soon as you introduce a cheaper version, the demand is gone. People are now going over to the cheaper version. So I hope this is beneficial. I hope you guys are learning a lot. We're now getting into the analysis. Just like we went over the supply and demand today, we're going to go over the value tomorrow. And then after that, we'll get into predictions. How do we predict with our analysis? We're almost here, guys. We're at the end, close to this 30 days. Stay focused. Keep learning. Hope you guys are benefiting from the 30-day challenge. And then from here, we go into the 90-day masterclass. If you are interested in joining the masterclass, please let me know. Do we have any questions on this? All right, so let me go ahead and get off of TikTok and YouTube. Anybody that is on TikTok and YouTube, if you are just joining us for the 30-day challenge, because we're on day 26 right now. So I invite you to go to my page. I have all the videos there. There's a playlist. You can go back to the first day, and every single video will teach you the entire challenge. All right, reach out to me if you are trying to do the 30-day challenge and you have any issues, you have any questions, you want additional information. You can also click the link in my bio, go down to the bottom of the page, and you can contact me on WhatsApp, and I'll answer any questions you have. All right, so we'll leave it there, guys. Thank everybody on TikTok. I'll see you guys tomorrow. And I'll do the same thing for those that are on YouTube. Thank you, Eric, for coming, my friend. All right, let me get off.